Welcome back to the Fifth Quarter Podcast. I'm your host, Owen Zajac. We have a great show for you today. We are very excited to be back and preview this week's AFC and NFC Conference Championship game matchups. Appreciate everyone tapping in here on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment below your predictions for this week's Conference Championship slate. With that being said, what an amazing divisional round weekend. Plenty of nail-biter games, the ugliest game I might have ever seen in my life, and breaking down just all the news that happened this week. So many different injuries, so many different news. We'll dive into all of that. In this episode, we will break down both the AFC and the NFC championship matchups, talk about the key analysis of each game, and predict who will punch a ticket to the Super Bowl this Sunday. There are only 4 teams left, 2 games. Let's start with the first matchup in the AFC, where it looks like a decade ago. Of course, we're talking about the New England Patriots and the Denver Broncos. So let's just dive into this bizarre matchup. So the New England Patriots are a 5.5-point favorite. No surprise there. After the Denver Broncos beat the Buffalo Bills in overtime, a breaking news story dropped from Adam Schefter, and that is Bo Nix had an ankle bone fracture. A little bone in his ankles broken. He's out for the playoffs. That news broke about an hour or two after the game. So pretty significant injury. Jarrett Stidham is the quarterback replacement as the backup in that room for several years. He was brought in by Sean Payton specifically to be the backup. We will see how he will fare. Interesting news about Jarrett Stidham. So one, he's a former Patriot. He was drafted while Tom Brady was still the quarterback in New England. Then he backed up Cam Newton before heading to Las Vegas, worked with Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels there in Las Vegas when he was the head coach there, and then is now in Denver under Sean Payton and sitting behind Bo Nix these past 2 years. So very interesting the amount of history that Jarrett Stidham has with both the Patriots and offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. But he's only had 1 snap this year, and that was in a kneel down. He has 0 passing attempts in the past 2 years. To be thrown into this 8 days to prepare, I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this. In other injury news for the Broncos, wide receiver Troy Franklin went down with a hamstring injury this past Saturday. We'll see if he returns. He'll probably be questionable heading into this week's matchup. And additionally, an interesting one, J.K. Dobbins, who's been out since September, I believe. He was activated off IR, his return to practice. Not sure if he will play. Usually a lot of players that return from IR, they have a 21-day window to return and play a game. And this being the first week, just activated today, actually. We will see if he plays. If I had to guess, he probably wouldn't, but very interesting news to monitor. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. He could play. That would be a significant boost for this weak run game in Denver. Looking at the weather, Denver last week, very beautiful, no issues. It's going to be the same again this weekend. 41 degrees and sunny, no torrential downpour, no freezing, just the altitude that the Patriots will have to play through. When we look at this past week's matchup, obviously the Broncos defeated the Bills, score of 33-30 in overtime. Both teams got the possession. There was that obviously kind of crazy play where Josh Allen throws it deep to Brandon Cooks. It's kind of ripped out of his hands as he goes to the ground. They call it an interception. Very controversial. Some people saying it was a catch. Some people say it's an interception. But regardless, after that, the Broncos go down. They score a field goal after some controversial pass interference calls. Regardless, they score the field goal. They move on, and now they host the Patriots in the AFC Championship game. For the Patriots, in what was maybe the ugliest game I've ever seen, Drake May had 4 fumbles, 2 of them lost. CJ Stroud had 4 interceptions. The Texans also had another fumble. So turnovers galore. It was passing it back and forth to each other like hot potato. No one wanted the ball. The weather was ugly. New England comes out with a win, 28-16 against a very good Texans defense. So we look at both of these teams coming off of very different games, coming with very different circumstances into this game. We look at this matchup, Gaston. It's a very interesting matchup. You look at this matchup, you see all the injuries that are occurring. If you're a coach on either of these teams and you're looking at this matchup, let's start on the Patriots side. You're a Patriots coach. You're looking at this matchup. What is the most interesting thing about this matchup? What are you looking for when you're going to say, I'm going to face the Denver Broncos, no Bo Nix? What's going through your head when you receive that news and you're prepping for a team like the Broncos?
I'm loading up the box and I'm stopping the run. This is a quarterback for the Patriots, not quarterback for the Broncos, who hasn't played football in 2 years. Nonetheless, AFC Championship game. I'm loading up the box. I'm going to make Jarrett Stidham try to throw the ball on me and try to win using his arm. And I think there's a good chance they can do this because last week, Bo Nix was their leading rusher. His ankle's gone. Maybe it's J.K. Dobbins.
All right, let's bring it over to the other side. Say you're a Broncos coach, maybe an offensive coach, doesn't matter, but I think that's a little more interesting. But you're a Broncos coach. You just lost your quarterback. You're prepping your quarterback with 8 days to prepare who hasn't thrown a pass in 2 years. What's your game plan for facing this Patriots defense that, as you know, really brought the pressure to CJ Stroud, forced 5 turnovers, 4 interceptions? What's your game plan as a Broncos coach preparing for this Patriots team?
I'm hyping up Jarrett Stidham. I'm boosting whatever his Spotify playlist is. We're playing it all throughout the facility. I want him to sling the ball early on, get some easy checkdowns, become a checkdown merchant. I want him to look like prime Alex Smith when he first starts the game, get a few easy completions, build up his confidence. And then I think it's a lot easier to take more deep shots, get some early running game going on with J.K. Dobbins, put him in a good position to succeed. I think the worst thing they can do is not let him throw the ball early, and he never gets in a rhythm. The best thing you can do is get him in a rhythm early. Have a mistake early, not late.
When looking at the run game, like you mentioned, I think this is very important for them, and I think it's going to be a key to victory. I'll get into that later. But you look at last week versus the Bills, RJ Harvey, their RB1 right now with J.K. Dobbins being injured. He only had 4 rushes for 20 yards. You look at Jaleel McLaughlin, their RB2, 6 rushes, 21 yards. So between their top running backs, we're talking about 10 rushes for 41 yards. That's not going to cut it against the Patriots. Bo Nix was their leading rusher with 29 rush yards, and that's on 12 attempts. Bo Nix, however, through the air, was averaging 10.7 yards per attempt on the number 1 passing defense in the league. They were airing out the ball. They won this through the passing game against the Bills, and they're not going to have that quarterback. That does not fare well for the Broncos. That is not a great game plan. They're not going to be able to replicate that against the Patriots. But in terms of defense, the Broncos are the number 2 total defense in the NFL. The Patriots, number 8. The Broncos rush defense, number 2 in the NFL, but they allowed 91 rush yards per game throughout the regular season, and against the Bills, 183. So almost, actually, yeah, double that. Look at the Patriots rush defense. They're number 6 in the NFL. They only allow 101 rush yards per game, and that's in the regular season. Over their first 2 playoff games, they only allowed 67.5 yards per game. So they're actually performing better. Now, that is against a weak Chargers offensive line and a weak Texans offensive line. So I do not think that tells the full story, but the Patriots are playing better. They are playing into that run defense, whereas the Broncos against James Cook and the Bills, they really did not fare well. We'll see if anything changes this Sunday against the Patriots. On the passing side of the ball, the Broncos pass defense, number 7 in the NFL. The Patriots, number 9 in the NFL. Both teams very good at defending the pass. We saw it. Broncos had 2 interceptions. The Patriots had 4 interceptions. These are teams that are very good, very fundamental on defense. They both have a cornerback 1. These teams might have the best 2 cornerbacks in Pat Surtain and Christian Gonzalez in the entire NFL. The Broncos pass defense, 187 pass yards per game allowed in the regular season. The Patriots, just 6 more yards than that, 193 pass yards a game allowed. Again, you look at that, Jarrett Stidham, that does not fare well for him. So you look at this defense, both of them, both top 10 defenses, both top 10 in pass defense, both top 6 in rush defense. These are 2 teams. The over-under on this game, I think, is 40.5 or 41.5, just like it was with that Patriots game. The Broncos and the Patriots defenses are both very good, and now you have a backup quarterback in there. This is not supposed to be a high-scoring game. If the Patriots start on a run early, they get ahead. I do not think this fares well for the Broncos. I believe that they will need to start from ahead. They will need a good scripted first or second drive to get them some points. I think the Broncos will need to play ahead in this game, and I think they need to let Jarrett Stidham pass the ball, like you said, pass the ball early on, get in a rhythm, and the run game is going to need to perform a lot better than it did last week. Looking at the turnovers, Jarrett Stidham, when he has played his games, he does tend to throw quite a bit of interceptions. And then for Drake May, he has been fumbling the ball way too much this postseason. He had 4 fumbles versus the Texans, 2 of them lost. He had a few more fumbles lost against the Chargers. So we look at this, turnovers are going to be a key to this matchup. And I think, again, for the Broncos, the turnovers, they're going to hurt a lot more with that offense. They can't run the ball well. They're not going to be able to burn the clock. So when I look at this and I see the Patriots and I see they face CJ Stroud, he was going ballistic with the turnovers. Justin Herbert looked like a deer in headlights. And now they're facing Jarrett Stidham. When you look at this, Gaston, and you look at the Patriots 14-3, and now here they are. I mean, are the Patriots really this good, or are they just the luckiest team in the NFL?
I don't think they're the luckiest team in the NFL. I think the luckiest team in the NFL is the Denver Broncos until now. I think for Jarrett Stidham, it's kind of a good and a bad thing that he hasn't played a lot. There's not a lot of film on him. Whereas a lot of those other guys, Herbert, Stroud, pocket passers, they've struggled to deal well with pressure. Jarrett Stidham's hard to evaluate. And I think that can work in his favor. I still think the Patriots are going to win this game, though.
So when we talk about the history, I know Jarrett Stidham was on the Patriots, but the only coach that he has significant interactions with and has had some history is with his former head coach of the Raiders, now Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels. With him and their history working together, obviously they spent a drastic amount of time together with him being a quarterback in his system. Does that fare well for Jarrett Stidham? Does that fare well for Josh McDaniels? Is there any disadvantage or advantage in this case for Jarrett Stidham? How does that fare with that history? Does it favor the quarterback? Does it favor the coach? How does that relationship impact this game?
I don't think it really impacts it at all, actually. And the reason I say that is they haven't been together since 2023. And I think that's such a great amount of time. Jarrett Stidham's changed and progressed a lot as a player. And I also think it'd be one thing if there's a defensive coordinator or a defensive coach that was on those staffs when Stidham was on the Raiders or on the Patriots. I think that would change. But for an offensive coordinator, I don't think that works as a disadvantage for Stidham. And I don't think Stidham's going to get upper hand knowledge on Josh McDaniels because it's been a while since he was coaching the Raiders.
And when you're evaluating Stidham this week and he walks out in the field and he's playing, what can we expect from Jarrett Stidham against the Patriots?
I think really conservative. Don't turn the ball over. He doesn't need to be perfect. He doesn't need to be Superman. He just needs to be efficient. Don't turn the ball over. Move the sticks. Take your check downs. Live to see another play. And I think if he does that, he can put himself in a good position. I think the run game needs to go well to help him out. And at some point, if the run game doesn't do well during that game, I think there's going to be a point where Jarrett Stidham's going to have to make a play beyond the one that is scripted or given to him.
For the Broncos' key to victory, I'm going to say that the run game is going to have to be good. They're going to need to put up over 100 yards in the run game against a formidable rush defense in the Patriots' rush defense, and also time of possession. I think for the Broncos to win this game, they're going to need an almost 2-to-1 ratio in time of possession. They're going to need to run the ball, like I said, run the clock like that, and move the chains. They do not need to take a lot of big shots. I think they'll have to do those to open up the offense, but they just need to hit on those third downs, run the ball efficiently, and they really need to hold the clock. I don't know what game I was watching this week, but one of the teams, their first drive was like an 8-minute long drive, and it resulted in a touchdown. If they can do something like that, I think they're going to need to hold the ball for 35 to 40 minutes on offense. That is the Broncos' key to victory. For the Patriots, their key to victory is once again interceptions. Jarrett Stidham is not a elite quarterback. He's a backup, let's be honest. And he has a history with interceptions. The last 2 weeks, they were picking off Herbert. They were drastically picking off CJ Stroud. They're going to need a few interceptions on the defensive side of the ball. And on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be Drake May. It's not that hard for Drake May to outperform Jarrett Stidham. We all seen Drake May. He can be that great player, but he needs to limit his turnovers. He cannot have those against this team and give them any more opportunities with their weak offense. And he's just going to need to use his legs. Last week, the weather was a massive impact in how their offensive performed. And Drake May really did not have any design runs. He barely scrambled and ran. Drake May is going to need to extend plays with his legs, utilize that, because this is a very good pass defense with a very, very, very good cornerback in Pat Surtain. But moving on over to the NFC, two powerhouses from the NFC West face off for the third time this season in Seattle. This is the better of the two matchups, and this is taking place with the 12th man in Seattle, Washington. This is a excellent matchup. The last time these two teams faced off, it went to overtime with the Seahawks winning 38-37 in overtime. It was 30-30. The Rams go down, score a touchdown, kick the extra point. The Seahawks go down, convert on some crazy plays. They score a touchdown, they go for two, they get it. They win 38-37. It was a phenomenal matchup, one of the best, if not the best of the year. And these two teams face off for the third time in the season. So the Seahawks, once again, are playing an NFC West team in the playoffs after playing the 49ers for the third time and sending them packing this past weekend in a dominant fashion. They will now face the Rams in a much tougher, less injured matchup. The weather for this game, it's actually going to be a 45 degrees and cloudy. No issues of weather for either of these games. The weather will not be an impact like it was these past weeks. I don't know, whatever. But some news out of Seattle. Zach Charbonnet is out for the season with a leg injury. So K9 will be the lone ranger left in that 1-2 punch for Seattle's offense. And diving into the defense, we all know the Seahawks defense is phenomenal. The Rams rush defense is 12th in the league. The Seahawks rush D is 3rd in the league. We saw them 2 times now absolutely stomp out Christian McCaffrey his last 2 games against them. He had 35 yards this past week on 11 attempts. And before that, in week 18, he had 23 rush yards on 8 attempts. So they can stop one of the best players in the NFL. They will have to do the same against the 1-2 punch of Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. For the Rams, like we said, their rush defense, 12th in the league, it's solid, but their pass defense, 19th in the league. I mean, the Bears didn't have their best performance. They got a few interceptions off of Caleb Williams, but the Seattle Seahawks also scored 38 points on them last time they played them. So this is a offense. These are 2 teams that are very familiar with each other, and a 2.5-point spread. That is the margin of error. Anything under 3. This game is going to be electric. This game is supposed to be, I think it will be very, very close. And we look at 2 teams in the same division. I mean, this game last time was cinema. This is the 3rd time they're playing. There's nothing left in the playbook besides maybe a few trick plays that we'd like to see. So I'm expecting this game to be very close. Obviously, the Seahawks, a team that's built on defense and efficient offense. The Rams, they're built on their offense, boom, 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 and their defense getting the pressure and their D-line impacting games when needed. So, guys, when we look at this matchup, we look at the Rams defense. They've had a very up and down year. Some games, Jarrett versus their defense, they take over. They have great games. Other times, like the last time they faced Seattle, they're letting the ball get out on them. Their pass defense isn't the greatest. So you look at this matchup, is the Rams defense going to choke away this game like they did last time against the Seahawks?
I don't think they're going to choke it. I think Seattle's going to win this game. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't think it's going to be a game where one team chokes the lead. I think it's going to be pretty even-keeled for most of the game, and I'm taking the Seahawks to win. I think Sam Darnold's going to have a good game. The past few games against good teams, he hasn't been turning the ball over. His stats aren't great right now, but he's moving the sticks. He's playing good when he needs to. He's playing good football. I think losing Charbonnet is going to be a loss to them, but I believe the running game is built on the trenches, and I think Seattle's good there, and I'm taking the Seahawks.
So obviously Seattle, they're built on defense. Sam Darnold has had a phenomenal year. Their run game has been really efficient. Clint Kubiak, he's now getting head coach interviews. That's how well their offense has been doing. But you look at the defense, obviously Seattle, this team, Mike McDonald, defensive coach, their identity is built on their defense. They're hard-hitting. They're smart. They do not have to play the same exact defense every game. They will switch up their defense against anyone they're playing. And that's just a testament to good coaching and how strong the roster is that they can give you so many different looks on it and play a phenomenal game week in, week out. You look at this defense, you look at the history of Seattle and their defenses. Would you say that this defense is better than the Legion of Boom?
No, and I would just say the Legion of Boom has more history behind it. But I think next season, I think you can make that argument, especially if this team goes to the Super Bowl, which I believe they will.
I think there's a few things that will really stand out to me when I look at this matchup. And I think for the Rams, their key to victory is going to be Matthew Stafford. He's going to need to have a legacy game. He's playing a tough defense. And last time I know they put up 37 points and they looked really good. But the defense is going to mix up so many different looks. Stafford, as we know, he's a pocket passer quarterback. He doesn't have that mobility. They're going to try to give him everything possible, and he's going to have to beat them with his arm. I think we all know that. For the Seahawks, their key to victory, I think they're going to have to play a too high safety look against Puka and Devontae. I think they're going to have to let up the run just a little bit, and they're really going to need to make sure to limit those deep plays. We see Puka, his run after catch. They have to stop that. And we look at Devontae Adams on those go balls, those deep balls, and especially when they get in the red zone, those fades. I think the Seahawks can limit those big plays. They can limit Puka and Devontae's impact and maybe let the run game transition a little bit, but not open up the play action. I think if they can play that too high safety look and limit Puka and Devontae Adams, they will punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. We got two very interesting games in one day. A trip to the Super Bowl is on the line. We will be back with you next week to preview Super Bowl 60. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Fifth Quarter Podcast. This is the best time of the year, tuning into every game where it's win or go home. If you enjoyed this, hit like, subscribe, and drop your conference championship takes in the comments. Appreciate you all for watching. We'll see you in the aftermath.